book 4, page 319, and the recording tonight is going to be 313. So that's. I asked at the beginning of the call when all the excitement was going on to interview. I just want to give a hello to all the new members that you invited, Charlie, and ask them to have a pen and paper ready for all this information.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, we are going to be, have a pen and paper. We're going to cover as much as we can tonight.
By the way, I just want to give some information real quick. This is Big V. Welcome to Thursday, April 9th of 2020. I just want to say, if you're the one that's making stupid comments on my videos, I am deleting those comments. So quit wasting your time. I'm kind of sick of listening to your garbage that you put on these videos. I hate that garbage. It's not even related to any of the subjects. So I just tear down your posts myself. So it'd be appreciated if you'd stop posting bullshit up on my videos. That's for sure, because I don't really like it. Anyways, just want to tell you all, this is Big V. Welcome to Thursday night. There will be no recordings of the Living Arts or the Sunday night call this upcoming weekend. So this is Charlie Moore. By the way, there's only anywhere between 150 to 200 people on Thursday nights. This call used to go well above 500 people. That tells you something about the Neothink Society. There is a problem in the society itself. They used to have 500 people, over 500 people on the Thursday night call on the Frank R. Wallace. They're down to 150 to 200 people now on the Frank R. Wallace. If that doesn't tell you something, there is definitely something wrong with the society. And no wonder the freaking 12 Visions party can't get going, because we don't have enough people even on this call. Anyways, I just wanted to share that information to you. Only 150 to 200 people on Thursday night. Now that's pathetic. When it was well over 500 when it first came out. And it went for weeks with that, and then gradually it started going down and all. I just want to talk because they're just spilling their garbage out about the newsletter and all that nonsense. They wouldn't post any of my stuff to start with because they don't want my YouTube channel being popular. Anyways, that little necklace that you see is from Maui, Hawaii, that you see right there, hanging right there. That name tag's from a different thing that I went to, but that wooden thing where my hand is, that's from Maui, Hawaii. If I go back to Maui, they'll put a white stone on there. That's from Maui, Hawaii. So I just wanted to let you guys know, Maui, Hawaii is a great place to go to, by the way. So, welcome to the Thursday Night League call. The call has taken a big, major dip in numbers. Just like everything else in the society has taken a dip. It's taken a big dip. It's ridiculous. Anyways, I just want to say, hey, by the way, the Wednesday program on social media was an excellent program. If you have access to that Wednesday program, go back and re-listen to some of the programs. We did the 12 Visions party last night at 9 o'clock p.m. The 12 Visions party was up and running, and the replay is available. The Wednesday morning programs are up and running. We had Les Brown for the 7:30 a.m. Guest speaker, and then we have John Maxwell for the 10 a.m. clubhouse meeting that I held. Leadership. And then this upcoming Tuesday, the 14th, we will be on at 5 p.m., so be prepared for it. All right, we're going to go back to Charlie Moore and listen to this nonsense garbage that he talks about. So, and by the way, he's talking about his once a month thing that he does on Saturday. He's charging you $100 a month for this deal. And he did it on Wednesday morning called the Prime Net Study Guide, but he's doing it on Saturdays. And, I wouldn't pay $100 because he's not really teaching you nothing. That's not really mentoring in my estimation. So here we go. Here's Charlie Moore. You're going to listen to him talk about his BS call on Saturday.
You finally can start to understand this information like ever before. So if you have any questions about this, if you have some interest but you're not still sure, just give me a call again tomorrow.
My counter is a mess, but I'm not here to advertise. I'm not here to advertise phone numbers. By the way, I am going to say if you're catching a cold or anything, this is a highly recommended herb that you can take, and you take it every 6 hours or every 12 hours. It's called echinacea. If you're looking for an herb to take for a cold or you're starting to feel kind of sick, you can take that. If you have cramps in your legs, this is also another thing you can take. It has vitamin D3, calcium. That helps with cramps in the legs. So just a quick hint there. All right, here we go with Thursday night call.
We have to understand now. Frank Biles has taken us all through what it is to be a Zion, what it takes, what it feels like. But you have to remember, when we were born, and probably up to the time we were 5 or 6 years old, we were Zions. Why? Because we didn't participate in this anti-civilization. Before we went off to school, we didn't participate in it. We didn't know anything about it. All we wanted to do was learn. And we asked a lot of questions, and we constantly bugged our parents or anyone else who was around. Why is this? Why is that? Why is this work? Because we had to learn just for survival, let alone anything else. But we were pure. We were God-men. We were Zions. We had no poison in our brains yet. And then once we get to that first day of school, then it all goes downhill, and we become followers. And then we just can't think for ourselves anymore. It is scary how people don't think for themselves. But anyway, Frank R. Wiles goes here and he says, without Zion power, you are trapped in an anti-civilization. But with Zion power, you control existence. That's a pretty big statement. You control existence. Right now, we can't control our lives. So how the hell are we going to control existence? That's the difference. Integrated thinking. He says, until the unveiling of Zion power in June of '92, every conscious adult on planet Earth was imprisoned in the irrational civilization, a mortally destructive anti-civilization. Through force and coercion, a dishonest parasite class has propagated an anti-civilization around the globe. They continue propagating that anti-civilization by deceptively, forcefully draining the productive class, essentially the entrepreneur business class, which is the nature of all genuine jobs, prosperity, happiness. Without Zion power, every conscious mind is imprisoned. Without Zion power, no conscious mind is able to escape the products of an anti-civilization, dishonesty, irrationality, destruction, and death. The reason for that entrapment is that everyone is coerced from every direction, and no conscious mind can think honestly, widely, or deeply under any form of coercion. That's how we lived the whole lives, okay, without even knowing it, all right? We thought that everything was being honest, and we thought this, and we thought that, and they have played a game of charades with us, basically. You can't really see what's going on, but what you think you do, and it's all a facade. There's nothing real in this anti-civilization. Nothing. Please understand that. Nothing. Most important, when trying to live by fully integrated honesty that is natural in the civilization of the universe, Now, that's not even the end of the sentence yet, and look how much that's said right there. Most important, and it is, when you come to Frank R. Wallace, you know his main thing is fully integrated honesty. That is natural in the civilization of the universe. Do you think fully integrated honesty is natural in our lives today? You don't even hear the word honesty even talked about anymore. One will increasingly feel uncomfortable and anxious if his or her life remains invested in the anti-civilization. Indeed, one cannot capture Zon power while remaining invested in this unreal anti-civilization. And as we've been saying forever, we must start to separate. We must not participate in this AC world. And a lot of people, well, how do you do that? Well, you read the books. You start putting this into practice. If you remember Miss Annabelle, and all of us love Miss Annabelle, and near the end of the book, I forget what page or what chapter it was, but Jake is sitting there, and I've mentioned this a million times because that always hit me when he said that. And he was looking at the 12 students, and one was president, one was, they were all rich, powerful people. The world knew them all. They were all famous. And he sat there and was just watching them, and he says, it's amazing how these children, these students, grew up to be all rich, famous, and successful. And he said, and they learned all this by living in that anti-civilization. But, he says, they never participated in it. All right, so that's what we have to do. Yes, we have to live in the anti-civilization. Yes, we have to work in the anti-civilization. We have to do everything in this anti. It doesn't mean we have to participate. It doesn't mean that we become followers. It doesn't mean that we do what everybody else is doing. They can go do that. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to live in my world. And that's with fully integrated honesty. It's with pure love. It's with understanding. It's with rationality. It's with common sense. It's with logic. It's with the laws of nature. It's with the laws of the universe, the law of attraction, the universal laws. All those things have been around from the beginning of time. That's what we follow. We can guide our own lives. We can become self-leaders. We don't need that AC world out there. Yes, we have to live in it, but we don't have to participate. So we have to gradually start weaning ourselves off of this. All right? Because you think this virus would have happened in the civilization of the universe? Of course not. Because the forces of neothink overtake the forces of nature. And that's how we got here, because Mark Hamilton sent us letters that was always written in the forces of nature. And we jumped on that. And he did that because he wanted us to buy the books so that we could understand the forces of neothink. And the forces of neothink outweigh everything, the forces of nature. And that's how we can control existence. When we become Zons, we can start our own universe if you want. Whatever. As Zon made this universe. Okay? But he says, ironically, though, through all this, throughout history, only young children and certain schizophrenic savants have tested Zon power. Now what he means by, he says, what is meant by stating certain schizophrenia what do you mean by that? That it has tested Zon power? Well, if you go back in history, especially during like the Greek days, they had all of these oracles. And these ancient oracles of Greece, including the most famous, the oracle at Delphi, they had one common background. They all were naively honest, uneducated country girls who hallucinated as schizophrenics. None were invested, but this is the key, they were not invested in the anti-civilization. Yet kings as mighty as Alexander the Great emperors, generals, lawmakers, and the wealthy regularly consulted and acted, often with favorable results, on the uncanny, seemingly brilliant insights of these hallucinating women. Wow, that's pretty weird, but that's what happened. Then he talks about, consider Joan of Arc in the early 15th century. She too was a naive, honest, uneducated country girl who hallucinated and was disconnected from society. Yet as a teenager, she became the premier military commander and a war strategist in France. She delivered brilliant new insights into politics, warfare, leadership, and battle tactics, starting by liberating Orleans at 17 years old. She personally led France to key victories over the English invaders. She also provided the political authority and strategy to restore Charles VII to the throne of France. At 19 years old, undermining the false power of the parasitical elite class, she was politically imprisoned, tried by ego justice, and then burned at the stake. Again, she didn't participate in this anti-civilization either. But then Franco Walsh asked this question: why did those uneducated, illiterate women have insights beyond anyone else in areas of state and war? Because they were uneducated, poor, and disconnected from established society, their minds were disconnected from the integrated blocking dynamics of the anti-civilization. In those areas, therefore, they were free to think more widely without bounds, free to think with greater honesty. And that's why they could do these things, because they weren't connected to this evil anti-civilization. So that's what we do. We start to separate also. The more that you step away from the AC world, the more integrated you become. The more godlike you become. The more Zen you become. The more self-leader you become. All these things happen now. The excitement that runs through your veins, because instead of us giving our power away, we're keeping this power now. We don't need the anti-civilization. We don't need to watch the news 24 hours a day. We don't need to listen to to almost all of the stuff that comes out of TV or all these news agencies. We don't need to be frightened to death because there's a virus out there. If you're fully integrated and you're a neothink, you've got to take care of yourself. Yes, it's wise to stay home as much as possible. Nobody has to tell you that. Nobody is coming here. I had a guy today who called me on the phone. Never spoke with the man before. Didn't know much about him, but he sounded really like down and out. He was like just way out there, and you can just feel it. And he says, "Well, I need help." I said, "All right." He says, "I'm on the verge of being put into prison again." I said, "Oh, wow." I said, "Well, what are you looking for me to do?" He says, "Well, I just need some advice." I said, "Well, I'm not an attorney." I said, "I don't have anything to do with the law." I said, "Do you have an attorney?" He goes, "No." I said, and I'm thinking to myself, see, I'm here again. He's not thinking for himself. How could you be on the verge of being put in jail? I didn't ask him what he did. I really didn't care. But the point was, he was on the verge of being put in jail. And he doesn't have an attorney? I mean, come on. You don't have to be a rocket scientist here to say, I need an attorney. So I said, why don't you have one? Well, he says, I'm afraid I don't have enough money. I said, well, you can get free legal help. You can go to legal aid. Just call your state, county, or your state, and they can tell you the closest office to you that you can get free counseling. Oh. He was looking for somebody to help him when he never looked inside to help himself. I said, that's what neothink's about. When you have a question, if you're not sure how to answer, to fix a problem or something, the first thing you do is look inside, not outside like we've been taught our whole lives. That's why it's hard for a lot of us to finally start to move here, because we still listen to outside authorities. That's why this country's walking around in fear. I mean, they have thrown so much fear at us. You know, this virus is going to kill you. The virus is going to kill, hundreds of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. Okay? So then everybody's stressed out, they're fear, you know. So when you do have to go out, I mean, I went to the supermarket the other day, and it wasn't too crowded, plenty of food on the shelf, but I was looking at people, and they look at you now as if, does he have the virus? It's almost like they're afraid to even say hi to you. You know, everybody's like a little paranoid out there right now. You shouldn't have to fear people to believe you. We shouldn't be in a police state. We all should have enough common sense to say, we've got to stay home until this thing passes so that we don't get it, or that we don't give it to somebody else. No, so as of now, we're living in a police state. This is all out of fear. It's ridiculous. All right? And so far, I have not heard of one person in Neothink that has caught this virus. That's incredible. Hope it stays that way. Now, there's people in Neothink that know people who have gotten the virus, but nobody as far as I know, and I don't think anybody else here has known anybody so far that has gotten the virus. So I think that's a great thing. You know, because you don't have to accept, you know, as I said, you don't want to accept the AC world. You really don't have to. All right? Which also means, now, you can believe this or not, you know, some people don't believe this, some people do, but you don't have to accept the virus. Think about that. Our minds can control our bodies, that it controls sickness. So my attitude is, I'm not going to accept it. That doesn't mean that I won't get it, but that's my attitude towards it. That doesn't mean I go out there and I run around and I hug everybody I see. It's just that I'm not going to accept that flu, that virus. I'm just not going to do it. I've never gotten the flu in my life. I've never taken a flu shot. Now, some people's immune system are better than others. You know, I don't know if mine's not as good because I had part of that lung taken out of me last year, but I don't feel it. That's not affecting me at all. But it's just how you look at the world. It's how you look at your life. Now, if you want to achieve it the way that it says in these books, then read these books and come to these calls and practice this. But we must. There's no way out of this. You must start to not participate in this anti-civilization. That's how we become Zons. Excuse me, I'm being a Zon. So I'm not going to listen to all the stuff that you tell me to do. You know, and that goes for family and friends, because family and friends always think that you're crazy being a Neothink. You know, but they don't know what Neothink is. So show them by example. Show them by hey, I'm becoming a Zon. Because I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm taking control of my life. So then he continues here, okay? He says, consider the most powerful moral savant of Western civilization, an uneducated, illiterate hippie who also hallucinated. He too was disconnected from the anti-civilization of his day. Yet that man held moral sway over the Western world for 100 generations, right up to this day. That person was Jesus. He undermined it. The parasitical elite class was politically imprisoned, tried by ego justice again, and then crucified. Jesus' earthly moral principles are now yielding to the universal moral principles found in objective law and expressed by the forthcoming Zon protocols. We're starting to live now like Jesus wanted people to live back then. He was basically one of the first revolutionaries. He was definitely Neothink. But he was way ahead of his time, unfortunately. And many people believed in him. But then the elite back then destroyed basically everything that he said, because they made it into a church. wants churches, they're just as political as government is. And that became an outside authority to us. But Jesus was here, and he was fantastic. But he had no intentions of being honored the way he is. He had no intentions of being an almighty God. He wasn't an almighty God. He was just a man, but a very intelligent, integrated person who spoke his mind, and he died for it. And how many people since then have died under the name of God, or Allah, or any of the other gods that are out there? Nobody. Jesus didn't want anybody to die in his name. That's defeating the whole purpose of what he was trying to do. So, wide scope thinking is impossible under coercion. This is why no one in this anti-civilization can fully grasp the concept of integrated honesty to unleash sound power. Any form of coercion generates an array of rationalities that prevent the wide-scope contextual thinking required by sound power. By disconnecting from every aspect of the coercive anti-civilization, the conscious mind springs free from the anti-civilization to gain sound power. And with sound power, one controls existence through fully integrated honesty. I love that 3 words, fully integrated honesty. That's what we must practice every day. And have fully integrated honesty about ourselves and looking inside and trying to fix what we have wrong, and then treating people and talking to people in fully integrated honesty. And some people will think you're crazy because you're being honest. But now when you're here, you're not crazy. And I told this to a person on the phone the other day, and I know I've said it on here many times. Most of my life I knew I was different. Most of my life I knew there was something better than what this world was offering, but I had no idea what it was until I was 57 years old and this information fell into my lap. And after I was here for about a year and I started to have all these breakthroughs, I had the biggest breakthrough ever. Because my whole life I would speak my mind. And people say, Charlie, you're crazy. That will never work. This will never work. I don't know where your mind comes from. And I was tired of people telling me I was wrong. So over the years, I got a little more quiet. Didn't really tell people how I felt about things because I didn't want to get, picked on again or whatever. You get tired of hearing it. When I realized what neothink was, and when I realized that I'm neothink, that I'm never going to go back to that old way of mine and those old thoughts, I had this great big breakthrough. Now I was justified. That all those years I was right. And they were wrong. It's a tremendous breakthrough. So everything I said back then, I said with honesty, fully integrated honesty. I didn't know that's what it was called. I was just speaking how I felt. And people were looking at me like, hey, what the hell's wrong with you? Now I'm here with all these other neo-thinkers, and I'm delighted. Even though maybe we're really noisy before the call, it's delightful to be here. This is what it's all about. This is why we came here, because we were all different. We didn't know exactly what we were called. We didn't know exactly what we were fighting against, but we knew that there was something wrong here. And now we have it. And this is what this is. So, Juanita, we do have some time, so why don't you give me aspects on what you got out of this, and then we'll see if we can get into these words at the end.
Oh, okay. Okay, Charlie. Well, that was quite a lot of aspects, if that's what you want to call it. Anyway, you handled it very well, my friend. Wow.
By the way, that's Bonita and Charlie Moore, and I'm going to do something here real quick.
Yeah.
That is the Prime Cure. That's the Prime Discovery book right there. That's the book that they were creating out of. That's all of Frank R. Wallace's works. Underneath is Mark Hamilton, Family, and You. And I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the other literature here. This is the Rise of Neotech.
I know on the call
And so
that
I
we
just
had
wanted to show you a couple of things here.
what everybody
This dawn power and all that stuff, you have to make your own decisions whether you believe in it or not. And, you know, I guess I would start asking questions and going back and re-listening to this whole program again. Since Charlie started talking, I'd start asking questions about stuff and what he said. So that's my opinion on that. Here's Juanita.
how I was definitely felt trapped in this anti-civilization because everything that I wanted to express, I had to hide or I had to be quiet about. Like you mentioned, Charlie, that you just stayed quiet for a long time because I felt like I was coerced, if that's how you use the word, from my abilities to share. Because you cannot be honest in the AC world and survive. I don't know if I said that right. Yeah, it's hard to use your fully integrated honesty in that world. And when Charlie, you were talking about how we have to isolate ourselves from that, that doesn't mean that we cannot interact out there. We just understand that we control our existence now. We have full control of it because we understand our child from within, which is our Zon. And when you have that child from within working with you, and you are embracing that child from within, you are unbeatable, you're unstoppable. And yes, you might be one of those Joan of Arcs or even Jesus, which was an advanced man. He was the first Neothink man to walk this planet. And he was not teaching religion. He was sharing with the bicameral mind how to unblock their mind and think for themselves and make those decisions from within, which is our Zon power. When we can make our own decisions, rational decisions, logical, and not live in that mysticism mind of creating problems that weren't even there, because that's what they're doing out there in the media. And I know that once in a while I hop in, and I call it hopping in and looking at what's on the TV, but I don't even participate there because it looks so crazy to me. I am separated from the TV for 8 years now. I do stream news like David Wilcock or something like that, but I do not participate in the AC television or buy into it. I'm not out there paranoid. I went to the store today, and you're right, Charlie. People look at you like you might have that virus, and I'm like thinking, okay, it's so they created, and this is what I'm talking about, mysticism. They've even created problems there where probably none exist, but for the masses that don't have the literature that we have that iron grip control over ourselves, they buy into it, down to every detail of it. They're buying into it, and it's really a way to keep the vibration of the planet down. You also brought up the universal laws, and if you really think about it, this material that is so valuable to us is universal laws. It's not worldly teachings. And with universal laws, if you really want to get down to it, if we think about that virus and we buy into that fear, yes, then we're going to get sick. However, like you said, there's not any Neothink members that I've talked to that have that condition. And I'm grateful for that, because I know that they have the ability to focus on what is. Like you said, Miss Annabelle, she taught the students to focus on what is. And we all have that characteristic in us, that we focus on what is and we don't buy into what's out there in the AC world. And that is how we're able to isolate. And I'll give it back to you for a minute, Charlie.
Well, thank you for that, Juanita. Great. If you look at, I try to not get political on this call that much. I try not to get too much, but you have to look at the way that this AC world works. We have lost so many freedoms in just this country in the last 20 years, especially since 9/11. Like the Patriot Act was signed before that, but yet they added a lot to it, and they said it's going to protect us more, but we lost our privacy. We have no privacy left at all, basically, okay? And they never took, and are we any safer than we were since 2001? That's 19 years. We're not any safer, all right? Look at today. Are we safer today with this? This is worse than 9/11. But they have made so many people frightened. Look how easy it was for Americans to give up their freedom. I mean, they have us basically locked down in our houses today, and nobody's complaining, hardly. Because the government speaks, and it scares us. And we understand why, because they have this power over us that we gave them 3,000 years ago. And we have never taken it back. So we have to start looking at this and say, that's why we have to disconnect from the AC world. We don't have to follow their laws. But since we're Neothink, we don't have to worry about the law because you know what the laws are. We know that we have to be reasonable. We have to be logical. We have to have common sense. We have to be honest. And that should be second nature to us because that's what we all should be to begin with. We were like that at 5 years old. So why can't we be that way at 50 or 60 or 70 or 80? That's what we want to be. That's the only way that this world can go. If this world doesn't start to go towards civilization of the universe, do you think this world can get any better? It can't. Because it's not ruled by love. It's not ruled by honesty. It's not ruled by any common denominator that you want to be associated with.
Well, the society's not ruled by honesty, that's for damn sure. The 12 Vision Party's not ruled by honesty. That's a load of shit.
But in the meantime, we're dying here. It's nice to think. And if we truly start to accept Neothink in our life and start to really understand it, it's a great feeling of peace. It's a great feeling of power, your own power that you have, that you don't want to share with anybody. This is your power. And you're feeling strong and confident because now you know what's going on. Now you understand why this world is the way it is. As I said, I got quiet all those years. But when I came here and I started to finally meet people, and they started to have these calls, I got involved in these calls, and there was other people out there like me, they can't shut me up now. And I've been screaming this for 12 years now, and I'm not going to stop screaming it because I believe in this, because this is how we should be. And they didn't shut up Juanita, and they didn't shut up Karen Abernathy and a lot of others here. We have all spoke our minds now, and people listen. Doesn't mean you have to agree with me, and I've had disagreements with people on this call over the years, and that's why people come here sometimes, because they never know what's going to happen on these calls with me. But that's okay. You have a right to speak your mind here and to be honest. But if you don't understand something, if you're not reading the book...
I speak my mind on YouTube, and I speak my mind on social media every week, whether Charlie Moore likes it or not.
It's the most powerful tool in the universe. It's limitless. Did you ever think that about your mind? Did you ever think that about you? That you have unlimited power. You can become anything that you want. You can have the life of anything that you ever dreamed of in your life. All you got to do is practice this. Read it and practice it. Put it into your life. And you can't go wrong. And had a woman on the phone today, and she said, well, I'm just so busy. I'm just so busy. When anybody says that to me, I know that they're not doing their mini days. They're not doing that mini day schedule. And it doesn't matter if you're working or not working. It doesn't matter if you're 30 or if you're 80. You need a mini day schedule for so many different reasons. But that's going to give you power. It's going to help you control your time. And when you control your time, you control your life. In fact, I had a lady on the call, was it last week? I think it was on this call I forget, just last week, I believe. And she, what was it? She had something come up in her life, and she gave up everything else to do that. Remember that lady? Was it on this call last week? I forget. Or was it on the Sunday?
I'm not sure, but I think, I remember. Remember.
And then she And then she finally spoke up, and she says, wow. She said, oh, no, she was on the webinar last week. That's right, it was on the webinar call last Wednesday. And the next day she called me. And she says, thank you for the call last night. I said, well, you're welcome. She says, I was the one who called in and said that I had to give up my mini day because I had all these, because she's moving. She was moving about an hour or so away. And she was doing all these things about the move. And she let everything else go. And we said on the call that many days are so flexible because if you have something else come up in your life, like you're going to move, then you got to set up your many day schedule with that in it. And it never, and it just didn't click with her that that's what she should have done. And then she was so grateful when she heard that. The many day schedule will help you do anything that you want to do. You just schedule it. And then if something changes, so go back and read the Neo Think One Key book. Go through that mini day schedule again. See how Mark Hamilton did it. And then you do yours, which will be totally different than his. But if you do that, I'll guarantee you, this is the closest guarantee anybody can ever give you. If you do your mini day schedule, and you do it, and it takes a while to get used to it, takes a while for you to adjust to it, and to change it if you have to, and understand it completely. But if you do that every day, you will hit your goal. Any goals that you have set. And you'll never again say, I'm too busy. Because everything's getting done. Because things get done quicker when you do the mini day schedule.